The NBA is back with a big old slate and an impossible amount of Q tags. So we're going to do what we always do here. We're going to compare my projections, Stokastic's projections, look at ownership as well along the way for that. We're going to build some lineups in the, of course, Stokastic Sims as well, find the best DFS lineups. At 4:30, we'll go to the world of prop betting with Unabated. Use their conditional NBA projections, finding the best bets, and there's going to be a lot of them on this slate. So go check out Unabated, $30 off, promo code SPLASH. Let's get into it, guys. So many questionable guys right now. It's the point where, like, I'm going to give you some stuff in this video. It's probably going to meaningfully change by the time we get to slate lock, if not after lock, because you have so many guys that are potentially out today that matter a lot to the slate. Those guys including LeBron James, Domantas Sabonis, Kristaps Porzingis. Kyrie Irving is questionable. It's a huge one because Luka Doncic is already out. So if Kyrie is out, it's going to completely change the equation for the Mavericks in a way that there isn't a lot of historical precedent to look at. John Morant, questionable. He's also got Marcus Smart out, or actually doubtful in that game. Scotty Barnes, big one as well. Jakob Poeltl's out for the Raptors too. Brandon Miller, key play. If he's out, it's going to open up the guy in the thumbnail, LaMelo Ball, who is probably not much of a play right now. If Brandon Miller's out, he will be. Alperen Sengun, questionable. Josh Hart, questionable. DeAndre Ayton, questionable. Josh Giddey, questionable. Bub Carrington, Derek Jones, Ben Shepherd, Christian Brown, Sam Hauser. Those all matter to some extent. Probable Anthony Davis, Trae Young, Tobias Harris, Keldon Johnson. Doubtful, as I mentioned, Marcus Smart, Jaden Ivey, Keegan Murray apparently going to play. That's all the ones we have to worry about right now. So, again, projections assuming some of these guys are in. For the most part, all the Q-Tag guys are going to be assumed to be in. And let's look at the numbers. Shout out to the chat as well. Appreciate you guys being here. It's a small 11-game slate, 13 if you're playing on FanDuel. Ton of injury watch. That is true. Going to be a mess. Also true. Think Kyrie was at shoot-around. He's in projections. I assume he's going to go, but who knows? Shout out David. Thanks for the show. I appreciate you being here, David. Thanks for watching. And yes, Miller was at shoot-around. That alert just came out. All right, your top 50 plays right now. This does include the two FanDuel games. Nikola Jokic, top player overall, 66.4 fantasy points if you are playing the DK night slate or you are trying to project things for FanDuel as well. He and Anthony Davis, actually the two best plays in the slate, and neither of them will be available in the DraftKings main slate today. So take them out of your brain. Karl Anthony Towns, revenge game versus Minnesota tonight. That's a big one. Towns, my second, wait, you know what? Hold on. I got to resort this because Cade Cunningham moved ahead. I changed some of the rate data to reflect Jaden Ivey being doubtful, likely not going to play today. As a result, Cade Cunningham is now a little bit above Towns for me. And actually, Cade moved up above AD, so that's actually a surprise. Cade, my number 2 guy overall, number 1 in our hearts for the DK slate today. 40% field ownership. I got him at 69% of my top 150 lineups before the show. Cade Cunningham, so far this year in games without Jaden Ivey on the court, averaging 1.46 fantasy points per minute, 35% usage, 47% assist rate, a 12% rebound rate as well. So for Cade Cunningham, a strong play in every possible way with Jaden Ivey out. Issue is this one, you're getting Tobias Harris back in. It does change the equation a little bit. I'll compare it was the other day. But that said, for Cade Cunningham, one of the best plays on the slate, under 10K salary. And I guess he'd be one of my highest projected guys now that I did move him around. Karl Anthony Towns, though, was ahead of him until I affected the rates or changed the rates a little bit there. For Towns, though, tough matchup on paper versus Minnesota. The situation for Minnesota overall, let me pull up their stats. Minnesota, in terms of defensive efficiency, 108 defensive efficiency rating for them, which is pretty good. Could be better, could be worse, but definitely a little bit better than the middle tier of the NBA. You obviously have Gobert, a little bit of a concern there. The ownership on Cat, and again, the revenge narrative stuff and all that, he's going back to Minnesota. Clearly, I think, had some acrimony leaving Minnesota, at least didn't see it coming in a way that he would have liked to have gotten the heads up for. Low total in the spot, only 214.5 combined points between these two teams here with New York and Minnesota. The ownership for Towns does not look that high. You can see it on the screen. 3% for the field. I got him 6% in my lineups. I'm not sure if that 3% is true. I think that's more of a data reflection. Again, accounting for the 49.6 projection for Stokastic they have. Of course, I've been higher on Towns on pretty much every slate this year. That's the case again. I think Towns is a strong play if he's going to be this low owned. That said, I do worry a little bit about, I've been watching some YouTube streams today. My pal Josh Anglin, who I'll be with on the deeper dive in a little bit on the Stokastic channel. He had people in his chat this morning for the NBA strategy show talking about how they expect to see a big revenge game from Cat. Jeff Teague, even on his podcast, like, I think Cat's going to try to get 50 today. I do wonder if the narrative for Cat pushes the ownership a little bit higher. This is a data reflection. I think it wouldn't shock me to see him be 10-15% owned, but NBA not quite the same as NFL, where you don't see usually huge swings. in terms of like, oh, here's this very casual play that people are going to like, and then they're going to jam them in more than the data is going to allow. For NFL, you see that happen a lot. Your Saquons, your Derrick Henrys talk about a lot for the NFL channel. For NBA, you don't see that as often, but this is one time here where I do think there's a shot you could see Karl Anthony Towns being up a little bit higher in ownership. And if that were the case, I don't know that it materially changes the equation because I do think he's a good play. That 52.2 projection I have for him. What a projection for Cade. Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot to go around with no Ivy. And yeah, late Ivy news sucked. That was a late scratch last time out. Honestly, I don't know that you had a ton of reason to play Ivy, but that does suck when that happens. So sorry to hear it. Big enough slate, he might not get steamed. I think that's also plausible as well. I just think 3% feels a little bit light for a guy where it's like, again, people love revenge narratives. There are a lot of casuals to play NBA DFS, even though the majority of lineups are the 20 maxers and 150 maxers. So I would be mindful of the Towns ownership. Probably wouldn't jam him in with this projected ownership being at only 3%. But, you know, if you get him 10%, get him 15, I think that's probably the appropriate amount, given the matchup and that good projection I have on him. Jason Tatum, I'm getting an 11% of lineups that feel to be at 9.4%. Not a priority play, but as a pay-up option, he does look a little bit better for me than the next guy. Victor Wembanyama, who I'm low on again. For the Spurs, you're getting a bunch of guys who like to get shots up coming into this lineup. Not my favorite scene to play Wemby on pretty much any slate, which, yeah, look, I missed out on the occasional big Wemby game on a slate like this one where there's so many games to go to, so many different players to go to. Maybe he breaks the slate. I don't know. But when you have Sohan in, when you have Vassell in, that's two guys who do dominate the ball a lot. Sohan's usage has come down a little bit, but still 23% usage on the year, 15% assist rate. For Vassell, you still have about 25% usage. Even Stephon Castle's holding up at 22%. So it's one of those things with Wemby where he's not really dominating the ball as much as some other guys are in other teams. Like, you know, Giannis, even with Dame there, higher usage player, kind of gets more possessions for himself. That's generally why I don't get Wemby as much. And the fact he kind of underperformed to start this year too. So for the most part, over the larger sample size of the entire season, ignoring the big games he's had, of which there are enough. For Wemby, though, I'm low on him again. The minutes too at 32.8. When you look at all the top guys here, everybody 34, 35, 36. You get down here a little bit less. There's a lot of discrepancies between where I view Wemby and I think where he gets ownership-wise. So 13.5% of the field, I got him into 1.3%. And honestly, I'm shocked I got that much. LeBron, highly projected here. He is questionable as well. Sabonis, highly projected here. He's questionable. Only matters for the FanDuel slate and the DK Knight slate. SGA coming off the NBA Cup bust. Wouldn't shock me to see them play a little bit better. That's what I have him at 47.4 today as a projection compared to 49 for Stokastic, so I'm a little bit lower. He's already low at 2.5%. I got 0. Şengün, who's questionable right now, I got 19% compared to 10. Jalen Johnson got 43% compared to 19. Onyeka Okongwu opens up a lot of theoretical rebound opportunities as well as some usage too. So for Jalen Johnson, getting a few more minutes as well with the 36.4-minute projection. I think he's a strong play and clearly a core play for me at that $8,400 salary today. Did I say salary? That $8,400 salary today. $8,400 salary, of course, is what that would be. Am I talking like the fantasy flock now? Is that what happens when I do enough streams? Kyrie Irving, 42% exposure. Again, new Luka Doncic here. If Kyrie goes, he's questionable as we're talking right now. He looks like a strong play if Kyrie is out. You don't have Jaden Hardy on that team anymore. Or not anymore. He's got a sprained ankle. He's not available today. For Kyrie Irving, one of the most important players on the slate right now, I think he and Scotty Barnes really crucial because they're right now kind of blocking a bunch of guys from looking substantially better. If Kyrie were to sit out, it would look pretty big in terms of the opportunity for everybody else there because you're missing Luka and Kyrie who basically take every possession on the court when they're out there between the two of them combined. So Kyrie's status, a key one to watch. And that's what I would say for that right now. Capella and Johnson, the same lineup. I don't think that's an issue. Yeah, I mean, I could see having the concern. It's just they're both a little bit underpriced. Capella at 5,300, definitely underpriced. If you give him, I think Josh Edelman has him at like 29 based on the show he had this morning. I'll see what he has when I talk to him in a little bit. For Clint Capella, though, with Stokastic projection of 25.3 minutes, not getting a crazy amount of Capella, but if you were to get him at 29 minutes, he would look like one of the best players in the slate. So I think he would always work. Jalen Johnson, I'm always down to play. The fact he's now a little bit away from that 9K salary, getting closer to 8K flat, I think a strong price tag as well. If these guys were priced to the gills and they were still projecting fairly well, maybe less so, but I think their price tags are kind of appropriate. And probably, a little bit more beneficial from not having Okongwu. So I think they're okay to play together, but I could see having some concern for it. If you really didn't want to play him, I wouldn't begrudge you it. Let's sort by value here. And we'll go the game by game view and really skim through it. I think it's gonna be the goal today. Values. Not any big crazy values on the slate. No 3K guys are going to love, but enough that look pretty good. Malik Beasley, having better projected than Stokastic today, 30.3 compared to 27.4. This year in court time without Jaden Ivey, he has been averaging 0.96 fantasy points per minute, 21.5% usage, 11% assist rate. Could see maybe Tobias Harris being back in, hurt things a little bit more. But for Malik Beasley, good play, mid-price play, should play the full allotment of minutes, should have a good opportunity to close as well. Again, in 59% of my lineups compared to the field's 26. Quentin Grimes, 41% compared to the field's 14. Grimes, for me, should be starting theoretically with Luka being out. No guarantee that happens. The projection has your attention. I do have him a little bit higher than Stokastic. It is a discrepancy for me. I'm at 24.1. Stokastic's at 19.7. I think theirs feels a little bit low. So far this year for Quentin Grimes, 539 possessions, so just short of the 550 we're trying to hit. He's at 20% usage in court time without Luka Doncic. 10% rebound rate, 10.5% assist rate, 0.94 fantasy points per minute. Both he and Najee Harris look a lot better per minute without Luka on the court. The other guy who gets the biggest boost to be Spencer Dinwiddie, averaging 0.92 fantasy points per minute in court time without Luka as well. But Grimes, I think the most playable at 3,900, getting that 25-minute projection. So strong value for that. Larry Nance. So you're saying Nance is a good value. He's an okay value. I don't know if the minutes are as guaranteed as it seems. They've kind of have not wanted to play Nance very much. The assumption here in the projection set is that he's going to take whatever minutes Capella leaves behind. Last game, and let's pull up Popcorn Machine for this. Hold on. Let's go to Atlanta. All right. So last time out, we saw Capella get 29 minutes with Okongwu healthy in the game, playing only 19. I don't think he left because of injury. Somebody can correct me if you happen to know, and I don't. But he did leave here. Seemed like he had his normal first half run. Capella got this many minutes, 29, like with Okongwu in. Given the fact that they don't like Larry Nance, and like I don't see Larry Nance getting more minutes than Okongwu got last game. So really that's the main thing for me. I think it's more likely to be like a 30-minute for Capella, 29, 38, let's say, 30, let's say, compared to 19, 18 in terms of minutes for Larry Nance. If you give Larry Nance those minutes, he's not really as good of a value. So, I don't think that matters. That's 2 games. For Larry Nance, the fact that like Larry Nance has been in the rotation, like that's the main thing to keep in mind here. He was in the rotation those previous times. Now he's not. So I don't think Nance is a guaranteed play. He looks like an okay value. But again, when you have Capella getting more minutes with Okongwu in, I don't think there's as much of a guarantee of Nance getting there. At 3,200, you're playing a backup guy who's very unlikely to close. I'm getting 33% sim exposure, but like practically tonight, I'm going to put in one lineup in the big tournament because everything else in my bankroll is going towards NFL. I am not going to have Nance in that lineup, I don't think. I think Nance is a bit, I wouldn't say a fish play, no disrespect to David in the chat, but like, I don't think he's as good of a play as it looks because I don't think he actually gets to 22 minutes. Great producer when he's out there. I've played Larry Nance on a lot of slates, including those games where Okongwu's been out. But I'm not sold that he's going to get enough run here, and I'm not sold the minutes projection for Capella is as high as it should be. So right now, this projection here of 22 minutes is assuming that Capella gets 25 and change. If Capella gets 29 and change, and you have to subtract that off of Larry Nance, if you give him an 18-minute projection, everything's going to look worse. So I think there's a real fragility to Larry Nance's projection. He's going to be obvious value that I think, frankly, the enthusiasm for the chat too, like that's going to be the same way people play it. And I don't know he's a guarantee. So I think Nance, I'd be really mindful of today, not going crazy with. And I think, honestly, this exposure to X field, I could live with that if I'm putting in a 150 set. But like if I'm just eyeballing things and trying to really look for where I can get different from the field and maybe avoid a play that doesn't have a huge ceiling but can be okay at 3,200, I think Larry Nance is probably the one play here that just gets a little bit overowned for that. I'd probably rather play Spencer Dinwiddie. That didn't work out in the sim, but 21 is my projection for him compared to 19, 25 minutes. Just talked about him averaging 0.92 fantasy points per minute. There's a lot of opportunity for him, unfortunately, because of not having Jaden Hardy out there. If you also were to miss Luka and Kyrie, certainly I think Dinwiddie would get more appropriately owned. As is right now, you're talking about a 9% owned Dinwiddie compared to almost double that Larry Nance. Probably rather have Dinwiddie because there's a lot more logical reason for him to get there. Whereas, like, really, you could fill those Okongwu minutes with more Capella. You could theoretically go small and not play Larry Nance. Like, not honestly, going Larry Nance is going small. So, like, you could play Jalen Johnson at the 5 if you wanted. And there's a lot more security, as crazy as it sounds, a lot more security in Dinwiddie's minutes and opportunity. than there is for Larry Nance, but Larry Nance is going to come up more easily. And again, the projections like favoring Dinwiddie in terms of raw points. Cade Cunningham, despite the high price tag and high projection, he does look like a top value to me at a 5.7x. Isaiah Hartenstein, as we talked about enough here, including on the showdown, the NBA Cup final the other day, and Hartenstein played well. I forget if he made the winning lineup or not, but Hartenstein, another quality play as well. Always a little bit better projected for me than the field right now than Stokastic has him. I have about 3 fantasy points higher for Hartenstein. Good rebounder, involved in assists and all that. Decent shot. The Thunder, I think, come out a little bit aggressive. Not the best matchup on paper for them versus Orlando, but Orlando also not the Orlando they normally are. You don't have Banchero and Franz Wagner out there. And I do think the NBA Cup loss, it wouldn't shock me to see them bounce back in a more meaningful way. So I do think that for Hartenstein, as a center play, I could get there. Getting 31% right now compared to 5. Practically, I probably wouldn't want to get that much. That's like very little field ownership. You don't want to make crazy stands on guys necessarily when they're this low owned. So just wanted to keep in mind if you're playing things, eyeballing things off my data at the very least. Other values, Tari Eason's questionable right now. He wasn't on that underdog list, but obviously if he goes, good tournament option pretty much always. If he doesn't go, he'll open up some other things. Got him in 31% of the top 150 lineups I have right now. Nobody else really to highlight. I think really the key values here we talked about Beasley, Grimes. I feel good about the minutes and opportunity for them. Nance, I think I get the price tag thing, but really do have some worries about the minutes as we talked about. Dinwiddie, feel good about the minutes. It would get better if Kyrie is out. Sort of the main things I'm seeing now. Let's go game by game here real fast. We're not going to go as in depth on all the stuff. I'll try to kind of wrap these games up fast. One fish, 2 fish, blue fish, Nance fish. Thank you. Didn't rhyme, but I get where you're going for there. And let's just get going. Charlotte's got to get myself motivated to go through 11 games by myself real fast. Charlotte 115 implied points. Washington 111. Not a lot for me in either game. Nobody who have 10% sim exposure to my top 150. Brandon Miller being questionable. He was at shoot around. Doesn't mean he's going to go. We've seen this go the other way a few times this year already for different teams. But that said, you assume he goes. If he does go, nobody here looks that great. LaMelo Ball on paper to me should be a strong play. That's it at his salary. There's a lot better projection plays overall. Miller, though, the usage, I think Stokastic and I are projecting Brandon Miller to kind of keep the 28.4% usage he has on the year. Decent chance that Miller does lose some opportunity just from being A, a little bit banged up, and B, LaMelo's just dominated the ball like crazily whenever he's been out there this year. 40% usage for him, and that does include a lot of court time with Miller out there, whereas Miller spiked his usage a good amount here, and court time where there wasn't a ton of a LaMelo Ball out there. LaMelo missed, 7 games, I think it was. So Brandon Miller's rates, I feel like, are a little bit off. But I think for Brandon Miller right now, unplayable. LaMelo close to unplayable. These guys' price tags need to come down, or Miller's rates need to stabilize a little bit more to better reflect the court time. Like that just kind of is who he is with LaMelo on the court. Miles Bridges, not a priority play for me. 6,200 is fine. 3% sim exposure. We're talking about Larry Nance still. He could end up optimal. I'm not saying he can't. I have to vocalize the concerns. That's why you watch the stream. We got Jordan. The reason, honestly, and I think people don't grasp this sometimes for both NFL and NBA, the reason that any of you guys watch my content is because I don't think exactly like everybody else you're watching throughout the entire day. That's sort of the point of things here. So poke holes into things that the industry just kind of locks in and goes and treats you, in all the content like median projections are median projections. They're not always guaranteed to happen, especially with fragile minutes projections in the NBA. Like that's like the most dangerous thing. So I appreciate your passion for Larry Nance and anybody else out there who feels the same way, but like I kind of have to point out the flip side of things. That's what we're here for. Jordan Poole, 9% sim exposure compared to 16. Bilal Coulibaly, 7 compared to 6. Coulibaly keeps spiking random days with Kuzma out. The rates don't really show it. The fantasy points per minute overall don't show it. 0.8 on the year. But I feel like Coulibaly, just whenever Kuzma's out, there's at least a shot that he can hit a big day. Field 6% ownership feels okay. I'm getting 7% on that. We'll get there when we get to Detroit. I can't skip around for people, unfortunately. Alex Sarr, 8% compared to 10. Also, the big thing for him is getting Tobias Harris back in, so not going to be a stable to play no matter what. Alex Sarr, 8% compared to 10. Again, no priorities here. Decent tournament options, not lots to love. Oklahoma City, 108.5. Orlando, 102. Isaiah Hartenstein's the biggest stand I would have here, 31%. Feels like a lot, though, for a guy who would be 5% for the field. That said, I do have him at 39.5 compared to 36.5. But that said, for Hartenstein, I think that at the spot, I don't think he should be the thing that makes or breaks your slate, especially really at this time of the day, like rather this time when the games are rolling out. I never like having a play that's crazily owned. That's not like one of the most obvious plays in the slate because of the fact you're going to want to keep some swappability for things. You like Larry Nance, like again, not to go back to Nance, but like Nance is like great value right now. If all the Dallas guys are out, like Luka and Kyrie are out, you're going to open up so much on Dallas. You're going to probably want to get some of those guys. You want to have some flexibility. And if you play a $6,800 center who has like an okay day, you're going to miss out on a lot of potential opportunity down the slate. So that's another reason for me too, that like, even though the sim gave me 31%, practically I wouldn't want that much Hartenstein. And I would really be careful too about having too much of the guys in the 7 o'clock games, 7:30 games, because like the later games, obviously not 10 o'clock, but like 8:30. Where are the ones? The Dallas game is at 8:30. That's a crucial one. Honestly, Josh Hart for New York matters a lot at 9:30. Atlanta, San Antonio, nobody really there. Houston at 8 matters a lot. If you got Şengün out, that would, and honestly, if you got Şengün and Tari Eason out, that would really impact things. So really the main thing is like, don't tie yourself up on the first 6 games of the slate or first 5 games of the slate, because there's 5 games going off 7 o'clock and 7:30. And if there's value that opens up in those games, let alone just knowing some players who are questionable right now, there's a really big chance you're going to need to swap stuff. So something to be mindful of, and Hartenstein here is like the exact guy like you don't want to load up on here because better plays can come along as a result of how the slate works. Anyway, ignoring that, Hartenstein does look like a good play. Jalen Williams, I'm okay with. I do like the narrative for Oklahoma City, but projection-wise, matchup from Orlando, the low total here, it doesn't do a lot for me. Orlando on their side, again, you have no Franz Wagner, no Banchero. I have Jalen Suggs projected fairly well, better than Stokastic, but not really enough to play. Got him in less than 1% of my lineups. 5% from Bitadze compared to 7. He looks like an okay play as well, and I'm a little bit lower than Stokastic. Mo Wagner, 11% for him. The minutes, basically a split between him and Bitadze. There's no Okongwu for Atlanta. So people like the 22 minutes that he's projected to get. We've talked about it a lot about 10 minutes ago. So for Orlando, nothing a priority here. Think you can make the case for Mo Wagner to be productive in his minutes, but like as a value, I think Beasley's a better player on the same price tag. I'd rather probably take the shot at Nance, I think, at his price tag compared to Mo Wagner. So 10% of him feels about right. Nothing a priority. Tournament options, though, for sure here for Orlando. If this game's somehow competitive, it's probably because Jalen Suggs played well. Probably because Bitadze did, I think, relatively okay. Mo Wagner heating up. KCP, I never play at this point with his 0.58 fantasy points a minute on the year. But you can make a case for this game being a little more appealing than it looks because really the total's low, but the game should be competitive. And again, the Thunder, I think, going to come out a little bit feisty because of the fact that they did embarrass themselves a little bit in that NBA Cup final. Utah, 111.3 implied points. Detroit, 115.8. Really key game here for me because of the exposure I'm going to have for Cade Cunningham. This is one of those spots where I talked about keeping some value flexibility for yourself. I really don't know that I need it in this spot because of how good of a play Cade Cunningham looks. Utah, not a good team. The pace, about a 99 pace is pretty good. Really everything kind of fits, I think, for going to Cade Cunningham a good amount. On Utah's side, nothing stands out like crazy to me. I'm always a little bit higher than the field on John Collins. Nothing surprising there. 37.5 for me in the projection compared to 35.8 for Stokastic. Walker Kessler as a sort of mid-tier value at center, getting him at 35.6 compared to the field's 35 projection, so a little bit more. 20% sim exposure for me compared to the field 7. Walker Kessler, okay play, kind of same thing as Hartenstein, where I think the price tag works well, but I don't want to make my slate today with 7 o'clock games and those guys. So I think for Walker Kessler, okay play, but that'd be a lot to have of him. Like if I'm tying up between him and Hartenstein, 50% of my center exposure just on early games, you could tie up 30% of your center exposure, still be above the field and do that. So just want to point that out when I see it with my sim exposure, a thing I wouldn't actually play it that way. Nothing else for Utah looks that good. Everybody should be going as normal. So really not any big values here. Detroit, though, Cade Cunningham, a priority play. The field will be at 40%. I got him at 69%. You can make the case whenever you see a 40% owned player and you have this many options on a 13-game slate, you could fade him outright. That said, I do have Cade higher projected, so I'm not going to do that. 55.5 is my projection compared to 52.8 for the field, or Stokastic in particular. Tobias Harris, 5% sim ownership, or 5% field ownership. I got 0 in my lineups. Jalen Duren, 16% field ownership. I got 5. Really mostly getting Beasley, 59% Beasley, 69% Cade Cunningham. Those are my big stands here. Everything else I can kind of live without, but they're going to get in some lineups. Brooklyn 107.5, Toronto 111.5. Big thing here with the Nets last game, nobody played above 30 minutes besides Ben Simmons. That was kind of weird. Simmons projected for 26.6 here would probably look like too good of a play if you gave him 29 minutes or so. He's been averaging 0.93 fantasy points per minute, which is okay. I have about 1.02 with the guys that are going to be out for Brooklyn moving forward. Obviously, Cam Thomas is out, might get traded at some point. Dennis Schroeder has gotten traded. For Ben Simmons, you could take the shot. They did give pretty big talk about him being the lead point guard moving forward, wanting to play with a faster pace as well. With him as point guard, Toronto's not that good, so that's a positive as well. Only a 4-point spread favoring Toronto in Toronto. But I think projection-wise, you really would kind of have to force your way to Simmons more. I got him 14% compared to the field's 21.5. Claxton, I got a 15% compared to the field's 14.8. Another cheapish center who just kind of works that 5K to 7K center price tag seems to happen a lot. But really not a lot for me to love on the Brooklyn side. Toronto side, unplayable unless you get Barnes out, I think. You guys know I love RJ Barrett a lot, but really you need one more player out here for this to make sense. You do have Grady Dick going. He's going to soak up some usage. You do have RJ Barrett going no matter what. Barnes being out, though, would open up everybody a lot more. No Jakob Poeltl in this game as well. Would have thought a center option might pop up, but Olynyk isn't playing a ton of minutes, only projected for 14. Bruno Fernando probably gets the nominal start, but doesn't get a ton of run. He's also 4,200, so it's not really a great price tag either. Nothing stands out here. Jonathan Mobo even's been priced up enough, and his minutes are a little bit flighty. So, talk about Mobo. I know that with Mobo. I was saying Mobo for a while because I'd heard the Toronto announcer say it. Then I was doing a stream with Josh the other day, and I was like, Jonathan, because he was saying Mogbo, and I'm like, I have to say Mogbo. And this morning, Josh is going off about it being Mobo. I'm like, dude, you're mispronouncing Mobo last week when he was Chalk. But I guess somewhere along the way, he learned it was Mobo, and yeah, it's Mobo. So I know that. Anyway, nothing else here that important. Yeah, really, I think that's it. Toronto, though, if Barnes comes out, everything changes. Chicago, 113.5. We're going to hit unabated in a moment, but got to fucking get through this. All right, let's really go fast here. Oh, good one to point out to you. I don't play FanDuel, but I do know this. Barnes is 3,500 on FanDuel today. If he's in, you have to play him. Like, you have to straight up play him. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Play him. Just play him. Like, he will more than 5x that salary. There's no way you're going to make up the difference you're going to get there. FanDuel just fucking a stupid site that doesn't care about its product. Chicago, Josh Giddey's questionable, but Stokastic took him out of projections. I'm not sure why. As a result, nothing still looks good, so I think you can just throw it out. Giddey, to me, wouldn't be playable anyway. Nothing here looks that good. They probably should get smoked by Boston. A 14-point road dog. You don't want to assume blowouts ever. If you ever were to assume a blowout, that's probably it. Chicago, too, not even priced well enough. You really want to take the shot on them. Somehow outperforming and being competitive with Boston. Just kind of a tough scene in this game. Getting Jason Tatum as a pay-up option, as we talked about, 11% compared to the field's 9. Derek White, a little bit. Drew Holiday, a little bit. Not a priority, but a massive total here. Honestly, with the total, 14-point spread, kind of feels like a Peyton Pritchard game where he just soaks up a lot of usage, gets going himself. That's at a 5,900. I don't know. You take that shot, really. So there's nothing really that'd be a priority here. Nollins gets 104.3. Houston 113.3. Nothing stands out too much ownership-wise in New Orleans, getting Yves Missy with the field at 14%. Again, that $5,500 price tag. That's going to happen a lot at center today if you're playing lineups. Herb Jones, less than 10%. I have nothing to make the case for here. DeJounte Murray, I like a little bit just theoretically if it's a tournament play. He's shooting so terribly on the air. At a certain point, he's going to get to at least like 52% true shooting, probably more like 55 to 58%. So DeJounte Murray at 46.4% with a good amount of usage. It's going to get better for him, but on this slate, it's hard to kind of make the case for guys like that. You have enough obvious plays to go to, I think. Houston, Şengün looks like one of my favorite plays. That said, he's questionable. If he were out, he would change everything. Same thing for Tari Eason, getting 19% Şengün compared to the field's 10, 31% Tari Eason compared to the field's 22. So those are the big stands here with the field or close to it on Jalen Green, close to it on Amen Thompson, but nothing really stands out too much here. Besides Tari Eason, who always I think is a good tournament play if he's going to be active. Golden State 117.3. And guys, it's the 4:30 mark. We're not ready for unabated yet, so we'll go over there in a moment. If you appreciate the content here of getting value of what I'm talking about, please make sure to subscribe down below. Hit the like button. Trying to get that march to 500 subs going here on the channel. Been doing it for about a month and a half. Brand new channel here. Trying to get it monetized and going for the new year. So please show some love. Hit the like button and subscribe. And in return, I'll be here every day. There's an NBA slate Monday to Friday at 4 p.m. That is the promise. Of course, check out our sponsors too. Unabated, $30 off with the promo code SPLASH. Get all of their betting data. And again, a 15% ROI. I mentioned on the Stokastic NFL stream this morning. Just from this season, based off all the bets over, I think, a 5% ROI, and I do 8% here. So main thing to keep in mind is like you're getting good bets in there, especially if you are being more scrutinous towards the bets. So check it out for Unabated, great product. And of course, Stokastic as well, if you want their data and the Sims tools that I show you on stream, 15% off the promo code SPLASH. And that's the only deal they have going for those products. And it does give you 15% off in perpetuity as well. All right. Golden State, my God. I feel like I need a sip of water. Yeah, am I almost there? It doesn't feel like it, but I appreciate it. And yes, please listen to Dick Chuck. If you can't listen to anybody, you got to listen to Dick Chuck. Golden State, 117.3 implied points. I got nothing on their side. Nobody above 3%, and that's Kuminga. Kuminga will be 10% owned by the field. Memphis, tough defense, competitive situation. I guess if Memphis were to lose Ja Morant for this game, I already expect them to not play Marcus Smart. He's doubtful right now. Maybe... I don't know. Maybe you can make a case for Curry, I guess, but Memphis is just a quality team with a bunch of wing guys to throw at you. Steph can beat any situation. He's 1% owned. It's a competitive game. I feel like maybe a tournament option from Golden State is appealing, but it's just projection-wise, like you're talking a 4.6x value, just not there. And that's with me having a little bit extra on the projection than Stokastic does. For Memphis on their side, Jaren Jackson looks chalky. I'm not really sure why. I have him much lower though than Stokastic at 34.6 compared to 37, getting him only 3% in my top 150. Zach Edey coming in a little bit as a value center, 4,300. Can give you similar upsides to those 5 to 6K centers that we talked about theoretically. I think he'd look like a much better play if Ja Morant was out because he'd open up a lot more usage and points opportunity for him basically. So for Zach Edey, I'm with the field on him now. I think I'd go over the field with him, assuming the field didn't go too crazy in ownership if we did have Ja Morant out. Everything else here, already accounting for Smart being out. They just have too many bodies, big rotation. Nobody plays over 33 minutes. It's kind of a tough one to go to on a slate of this size. Atlanta, 116.3 here. Talked about some of these players already, but Jalen Johnson always looks good to me. Have him at 43% of my top 150 lineups compared to the field's 19. Clint Capella, you can make the case he should be higher than his 25.3 minute projection. As I mentioned, if you were to give him 28, he would look borderline lock play territory. He would also knock Larry Nance out of being one of the best value plays in the slate. So very fragile minutes projection here between Capella and Nance. They're projected to have a dead even split at center. It is possible that Capella adds on 2-3 more minutes given the fact that he played over 28 last game. We had Okongwu in. But I think Capella probably deserves some more ownership. Larry Nance, 33% sim exposure for me compared to 16. Think he's a good value play. Would not play him with Capella no matter what. Would be willing to play him with Jalen Johnson as we talked about. Thank you for extra QT, Spags. I love you. I appreciate that. It's very extra cute of you. Thank you for saying it. San Antonio, 117.8 implied points on their side. Did not know he was getting this much Devin Vassell, but he's, again, gunning, despite the fact that Wembanyama should be the star player. Vassell's got 27% usage and 1 fantasy point per minute on the year, along with a 19% assist rate, too. So Vassell's actually been pretty good. 59% true shooting. If he were on any other team, they'd be like, yeah, this is our guy. Let's build around him. Let's get him some more shots. No, he's getting big paid by San Antonio, but honestly, Vassell's numbers, I'm always impressed by his usage. I didn't know he was shooting that well. Wemby, I'm low on him. You guys know the deal with that. I'm always low on him because you have other guys here that are taking usage away theoretically. Nothing that's a priority here, even though 1/5 of my lineups having Vassell is kind of a shocker. Thank you, Dick Chuck. Glad to have Dick Chuck and extra QT loving me. If I could have Dick Chuck and extra QT on my side, I'll know I have it made. But thank you guys. I do appreciate it. Clippers, 109.5. Dallas, 113.5. Nobody on the Clipper side above 5% ownership for me. At this point, they're all appropriately priced, I would say, for a matchup with Dallas. That said, you're going to get some Dallas chalk on their side, so playing a Clipper with it would not be crazy. Bub Carrington available, good. He was already in the projection, so it doesn't change anything for me. Dallas, so Kyrie Irving's the big stand here. 42% for the field. I'm getting him at 39. I do think he's a play here that looks pretty solid, but it's really important to keep in mind here. Like even compared to his yearly stats, he's at 1.1 fantasy points per minute. I gave him a rate bump to reflect the time that he plays on the court without Luka Doncic. He does average, as I mentioned before, about 1.2 and change. 1.26 fantasy points per minute with Luka off the court this year. That said, 1.24 today, he looks like a decent play to me, a 43.9 projection, but I don't think a smash play. He just doesn't quite benefit as much as I think people think in their head. And frankly, like he used to get more usage, more assist rate up when Luka was off the court before, but it hasn't been the case this year. Wasn't really the case for most of last year either. So I think like Kyrie, good play, but he's not like the smash play the field's going to treat him as, I think. Vassell's a pretty good fantasy producer. Last year I played him a lot. I don't know. You just probably had a cold day would be it. For Kyrie in this spot, I think it's a lot of ownership. I think it's okay. I think he's a good play. He feels like he could be a part of a winning lineup tonight, so I don't have an issue with it. But I'm not really sold that you're going to get this crazy high production out of Kyrie because he just hasn't shown that he's going to do that so far this year. Quentin Grimes, talked about him as a value play at 3,900. I do have a much higher project than Stokastic at 24.1 fantasy points compared to 19.7. That said, he has flashed higher usage at about 1 fantasy point per minute in core time without Luka this year. So they need bodies out there. Quentin Grimes is one of those bodies. Everything else here, I'm low on Klay Thompson. I get the theoretical assumption that he's going to benefit more. Price tag's reasonable at 4,900, but he's not shooting that well. 55% true shooting on the year, a 20.9% usage rate. PJ Washington gets the biggest bump without Luka. He averages 1.15 fantasy points per minute. So I have him at 1 flat today. I gave him a rate boost, but I don't think it matters that much. He does rebound a little bit more, 15.5% rebound rate, 19% usage. He takes a bigger jump up than Kyrie does, but I don't think he's like a must-have play by any stretch. Najee, it's really too, like if you bump up also, like you bump up Najee Marshall a little bit, which you should. You bump up Grimes a little bit more as you should. Like Washington kind of comes down because those guys contribute in every category as well. So I don't think PJ Washington's a must-have play either. If Kyrie's out, all of these guys are borderline must-have plays. As it is right now, Dinwiddie, I'd prioritize the value more than I have right now. Grimes seems like the big priority is value. Lively at center looks okay. Right now, these guys are all kind of okay plays, but they're all going to be smash plays if Kyrie does miss. So that's sort of where we are as of 4:37 on the East Coast. Oh my God, how many more actual games left? All right, we're going to skip the FanDuel games today. 2 more DraftKings games. If you want to scroll back for your FanDuel user, you can see my projections. Do have Jokic very highly projected and Anthony Davis, and LeBron's questionable, and that matters a lot for those games as well. Indiana, 114.5 implied points. Phoenix, 120.5. Getting Andrew Nembhard here just because there isn't really great value on the slate. 4,500 playing 29.8 projected minutes. Not a great producer on the year, but he makes lineups work. So Nembhard, 2x the field for me on Nembhard is not a stand I'm here to defend. That's basically how I feel about that. Phoenix doesn't look good to me at all. Got 3% Kevin Durant. Nice implied total here. Really, I never play Halliburton. And now the projections, by the way, they're finally flattening out with my Halliburton thing. So we talk about Halliburton a lot in this show because I'm always low on him. And now he's been bad enough times that Stokastic is like, all right, I guess we got to either he's shown it over the longer term sample or they're starting to knock him down. But Halliburton, these guys just aren't priced for who they are as players. And they sometimes spike a tournament ceiling. But against Phoenix, pace down spot, not really where you want to go. And yeah, so Phoenix, nothing on their side either. And last but not least, before we go to Unabated to get some good bets here last minute, New York, 106 implied points. Minnesota, 108.5 implied points. As I mentioned, Towns projects well enough here. If you were to give him a boost for the revenge narrative, I think it'd be a play to flock to. I don't buy that he's going to be 3% owned. Thinks he gets to about 10% just because of the revenge narrative. And you do have enough casual players on an NBA slate. That said, I think the revenge narrative is going to be real. I think if Jeff Teague, a guy who likes Cat and played with him for years, is like, Cat's going to try to go for 50. I think that does matter a little bit for me in terms of how I'm viewing the slate. I will probably get Towns in the lineup I put in tonight, I think, in the big tournament. But, that's just the gut feel thing. That's not really fully a projection thing. But he does project well enough to play. So you got a decent enough projection, and you got the revenge narrative. I think he's worth a shot. Josh Hart's questionable. If he's out, Anunoby's going to look better. Bridges will look better. McBride will look better. Everybody will gain a little bit because Josh Hart contributes in every category. But really nothing I think that makes anybody a must play here. Minnesota, I don't think anything's really a play. Naz Reid is a semi-value at 4,800 is okay. Got 7% of him. 5% of Mike Conley. Nothing else really. And that's the slate on DK. Time to get some bets in, guys. And you guys know the deal. You know what we have to do next. First of all, I have to load the tab. Second of all, I need to show you this important video about Unabated's NBA product. Bunch of numbers given to you by experts, you've come to the right place. Come look at all these numbers. Who are your eyes getting blurry? Too bad. Look at. You want to see who's in and who's out and what the numbers look like? You can do that too. Put DeJounte Murray in, trade Zion Williamson, and don't worry about any of his betting markets. That's what's looking good right now. Real-time NBA news, get all these alerts, get the Discord alerts on your phone. You can stop going on Twitter. Stop dealing with weirdos who suck off Elon Musk too much. I probably shouldn't say that in the ad read. Graphs! Graphs will distract you. Whenever you need a friend, you've always got a graph there waiting behind you. Community will rub your back. Expert Game Day live streams, they're experts, dare I say, even more than me. No, they can't be. Count your money here at Unabated, though. Really great partner for me. Great product for you as well. I only show you guys shit that I actually use and believe in. That's one of the big things I've sworn from. I had to swear onto a Bible the moment that I came here. No, but like really, I only show you guys products that I believe in, and really Unabated is one of those products that if I were to give it to the stupidest person I know, I think they would do well with it. I don't know why it's not letting me click my projections right now. But there we go. All right, I think we got it. All right, so ton of questionable players right now. For the teams with a questionable player, we're just going to ignore it for today because we have enough games to not worry about that. So let's sim it out, and this is what Unabated does. They use those custom NBA projections that are made by the team led by Justin Fan over there. And again, people, if you are concerned about the quality of data, which if you know Unabated, you wouldn't be. But in case you don't, this is a product here that you have bettors using, spending tens of thousands of dollars on a slate, some of them legitimately up to like $100,000 on certain slates, betting all these various things. You're getting some of the best data in the business, and like data that those guys are spending a lot more money than you or I are using on a daily basis. So just keep that in mind here if you are one of those people that questions everything, as seems to be the raison d'etre of 2024. All right, top bets right now. Oh, Randall revenge. I mean, look, that's sneakier. I would definitely go the cat side because Randall projects like shit. Ron Holland, 22.1% EV for you on the pick'em sites today. PrizePicks or Underdog. You can play under 7.5 points for Ron Holland. Getting Tobias Harris back in, even though Jaden Ivey, really having Tobias back in is going to hurt those minutes on the wing. So that hurts Oscar Thompson as well. But Ron Holland under 7.5 looks good on PrizePicks and Underdog. And you can also bet it on DK Sportsbook under 7.5 points there at -120 odds. Cade Cunningham over 24. One of my favorite DFS plays in the slate. Looks good here for Unabated as well. You can play it on the pick'em sites. 10.3% EV for Cade Cunningham over 24 points. Not playable on Underdog, only on PrizePicks. And you can take it on FanDuel as well. Over 24.5 points, -110 odds. Alex Sarr, 8.4% EV on over 10.5 points. That one's available on Underdog to add to a pick'em slip on there. Looks like it is not on FanDuel or DK, not available. So add that to your pick'em. Alex Sarr, over 10.5 points. Malcolm Brogdon, under 12.5 points. 8.3% EV for that one at -110 odds on FanDuel Sportsbook. Not playable on the pick'em sites and not playable on DK. Man, there's so many Q-Tag guys out that we still didn't get a ton of bets. For what it's worth, though, those unabated EV calculations were for all the bets above 5%. So when you see ones on the screen that I don't read, if they're above 5%, feel free to tail them. Julian Champagny, under 12.5 points, -110 odds on FanDuel Sportsbook, 8.3% EV for that, not on your pick'em sites. And Malcolm Brogdon we read already. Let's go to rebounds. I feel like rebounds we always have the most. So let's see if that's the case today. Here's that rebound EV. All right, Julian Champagny, under 5 rebounds. That's on PrizePicks right now. It gets you 19.2% EV. You do not want to play Champagny rebounds on DK or FanDuel, though. So only PrizePicks, under 5 rebounds for Julian Champagny. Jalen Johnson, under 9.5 rebounds, +1. Oh, and I hate to see an under for Jalen Johnson. Under 9.5 rebounds, +116 odds. And guys, if you're planning on leaving the stream because you're not interested in the betting part, stay tuned. We're going to run a Stokastic sim in a moment as well. So a little bit of everything here on the stream as always. Got to make sure to hit our unabated stuff for our friends who enjoy the betting and pick'ems. Jalen Johnson, though, under 9.5 rebounds, +116 odds, gets you 14.1% EV on FanDuel Sportsbook. Still playable as well in a PrizePicks pick'em, 8.7% EV for Jalen Johnson, under 10 rebounds on there. It's people say it different ways. I've heard I just say Champagny. I'm sure there's a way to pronounce it. That's not the way I'm saying it. Champagny, I'm sticking with it. Sounds kind of like my name if I say it like that. Spagnolo, Champagny. Brothers in arms. Victor Wembanyama, under 11.5 rebounds, -105 odds on DK Sportsbook, gets you 10.4% EV. Probably don't want to play it on the pick'em sites, though. Harrison Barnes, under 4 rebounds, gets you 10.3% EV. That one's on PrizePicks right now. Also bettable on DK Sportsbook, where it gets you 8.4% EV. And same thing on FanDuel, +120 odds, under 3.5 rebounds for old Harrison Barnes. You could just watch the ball go by all day long, and you don't have a problem on that. Jeremy Sohan, under 8.5 rebounds. Pick'ems, looking good on PrizePicks. 8.1% EV for Jeremy Sohan, under 8.5 rebounds. Borderline playable on DraftKings at -120, but you can skip it if you want. And nothing else here looks good under rebounds. Assists. Champagne. We think it's Champagne. Sham wow is what I'd say. Sham God. I don't know. I know it's Champagne, right? I think is how I've heard people say it too. Whatever. I still hate it. Jalen Johnson, under 5 assists. 2 unders on Jalen Johnson. They're killing me. 16.1% EV on under 5 assists today for Jalen Johnson. That one's on PrizePicks. Also looks good on DK Sportsbook and FanDuel Sportsbook. 12.6% EV at plus 114 odds for under 4.5 assists for Jalen Johnson on both those sites. And again, on PrizePicks, it does look the best, though. We're getting under 5. Jeremy Sohan, under 2.5 assists, 11.6% EV at minus 102 odds on FanDuel. Also bettable on DK Sportsbook at minus 105 odds on there. Under 2.5 assists for them. There's 3 of them? I know there's 2. I know there were 3. I know you got the second one on the Wizards, right? Who's the third? What team is the third one on? But that's, yeah, stupid name to have that many brothers. Impressive, though, to have that many. That's like tying the holidays in terms of the amount of brothers in the league. Stephon Castle here, assists, under 3.5 assists, 8.1% EV and minus 154 odds on FanDuel Sportsbook, not playable on your pick'em sites. I have to point out, guys, we're just basically leaving out every team with a Q tag player. You're going to get a lot more bets on Unabated itself. You know, go in for yourself, put these guys in, take some guys out, whatever you want to do it. But basically, that's why we're getting a little bit less markets than usual, because I'm taking out a shitload of games, just leaving the Q tag players as they are. But I think we have enough bets to at least make this segment valuable. So we're roll with it as it is. And last but not least, our PRAs. Under 30. Man, another under for Jalen Johnson. They are just not with me on Team Jalen Johnson today. Under 35 PRAs for Jalen Johnson. 12.6% EV for your PrizePicks Pick'ems. You can play on an underdog under 34.5. You're losing a little bit of EV on that. Same thing. Well, actually still very bettable on DK and FanDuel. Under 34.5 PRAs for Jalen Johnson on both DraftKings and FanDuel. Minus 108 on FanDuel, minus 115 on DK Sportsbook. Dyson Daniels under 21.5 PRAs, plus 100. Why is all the value in, maybe because it's one of the only games where there's not Q tags? Yeah, I think we needed to get a few more markets in. Anyway, we're fine. Just confused why it's so much Atlanta and Spurs. Trey Murphy, though, was not pulled in here. Now it's pulled in. Trey Murphy over 23 PRAs looks good on PrizePicks. Actually, would be your best bet on PrizePicks. 14.8% EV on PrizePicks, 8.7% on Underdog, where it's over 23.5. And then DK Sportsbook for Trey Murphy, also bettable. Over 23.5 PRAs gets you 12.4% EV at minus 110 odds. What we not read yet? Harrison Barnes under 16.5 PRAs looks good on PrizePicks and Underdog Pick'ems. You're getting 10.3% EV for both the Pick'em sites on Harrison Barnes under 16.5 PRAs, and it is not available on DK or FanDuel. Kevin Porter Jr., 8.1% EV on under 18 PRAs for him. Minutes not really that secure. He gets there really in blowouts for the most part. If they blow out Dallas, then a better shot of you not hitting. But I think with a competitive game as expected versus Dallas, you're probably going to be okay here. For Kevin Porter, under 18 PRAs on PrizePicks only, and looks like not available on DK. Playable on FanDuel as well, under 17.5 PRAs at minus 104. All right, that's Unabated, guys. A little bit of a faster segment today because, again, just so many Q-tag games, and it's just not worth trying to talk through all of those things because, frankly, it just gives me more to get fucking marble-mouthed over. But let's get a Stokastic right now. Let's build some lineups. Let's see what we get in the Sims. And again, you saw my sim exposure based on my projection data, which I overlay on Stokastic. You could upload your own projections if you wanted to use even ETR data, Unabated's data. You can do that on Stokastic as well. Still use a sim product, but use a different projection set. It's a very credible way to do things. Hint, hint, try it out. I think would be a good move. But check out Stokastic, of course. Promoted Unabated, $30 off the promo code SPLASH at unabated.com/NBA. And Stokastic, 15% off here. The Sims tools, Stokastic data, their lineup generator stuff, all that's 15% off. So support the show directly. I get an affiliate fee for that stuff, but also for yourself. You get a product that's going to make you a lot better and a lot smarter at DFS. Instead of just watching me talk through it, get your hands on it, do it yourself, and you'll probably do really well, honestly. If you watch these shows and you start to grasp how projections work, how ownerships work, how everything we talk about works, you grasp why I felt the need to talk about Larry Nance for 10 minutes and talk about, how to view that and the way to approach things. You're going to be able to do a lot better if you have the tools yourself to kind of make the most of it rather than just tailing along here. And I'll say it too in advance, even though we got a lot more to sim still. We still got to run the actual sim of stuff. Keep in mind that, don't play lineups straight away that you see on the screen here. Try to play them, use them as a thought starter to build your own lineups, or just notice trends about players that are coming up a lot. It's the main thing as well with the Sims you see here if you are watching them on a stream, much like mine. And hey, still, honestly, I think we might have set a live viewer record today. So quick pander. Guys, make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, leave a comment. It does go a long way for me here. Again, I'm one guy running an NFL and NBA channel. People keep asking me to do playoff basketball for NFL. And it's like, with NBA and NFL season still going on, I dedicate so much bandwidth to these two things and being one of the hopefully better sources you guys can have for info. I sacrifice other things that I can do to hopefully give you guys an edge here, give you some value back. So please show some love back. Subscribe, hit the like button. It all does go a long way for me here. Oh boy. Honestly, though, fun NBA slate. It's going to suck when like the best value in the world opens up that nobody's prepared for, as does sometimes happen on these large NBA slates. But I think you have really unique opportunities. I think there's also compelling late plays like Karl-Anthony Towns to keep maybe some flexibility to pivot things around if you want. In terms of late swap abilities, we mentioned just try not to overload on guys you don't feel that good about in the first 5 games. So like really try to be careful about your Charlotte, Washington guys, OKC, Orlando guys, Utah, Detroit guys, Brooklyn, Toronto, and Chicago, Boston. Those 5 games, if you have like players that you pick up a ton of ownership on and they're like okay plays right now, but value opens up, you just don't want to be in that spot. So I said it earlier in the stream, but I'm just going to highlight it again before we hop into lineups. All right, top 150 lineups right now. Yes, please listen to David. David gets it. David heard me rant about Larry Nance. He knows I'm at least thinking about it. Cade Cunningham in your number 1 ROI lineup. Cade Cunningham, Kyrie Irving, Devin Vassell. Larry Nance Jr. does make the lineup. Zach Edey, Ben Simmons, Jalen Johnson, Derek Lively. You know what? I'll give this lineup credit. All guys are the real that are meaningfully in the rotation, assuming Nance's minutes are good. Zach Edey's going to look a little bit more appealing if you get John Morant out. Questionable right now. Don't mind that lineup. Number 2, Cade Cunningham, Kyrie Irving, Devin Vassell, Larry Nance, Nick Claxton, Ben Simmons, Jalen Johnson, Zach Edey. So Edey again. Kyrie and Cade again, Vassell again, Nance again. Those are kind of your main points. And Ben Simmons, really vouching for Ben Simmons. Barrett out. Oh, that's fucking... Well, if Barnes is out too, then the Raptors are going to be fucking a team you have to get. Barrett being out, though, is going to make Barnes look really appealing, assuming that he plays. That's crazy. Number 3 ROI lineup, Ben Simmons, Kyrie Irving, Devin Vassell, Alex Sarr, Paul Reed, John Morant, Jalen Johnson, Derek Lively. This lineup I don't like. Like, I'd rather take that first one so many more times. Sarr is okay. Paul Reed, though, you're playing the backup center for Detroit. Kind of not the most appealing play there. Playing a backup that can't close the game is never really the option in DFS if you're trying to win a big tournament. Unless they're like super productive and way too cheap. Cade Cunningham at number 4. Cunningham, Vassell, DeAndre Hunter, Larry Nance, Zach Edey, Kyrie Irving, Jalen Johnson, and Derek Lively again. Again, Lively should benefit a little bit in terms of Luka not being there. He's going to miss some of those rim running opportunities, but maybe gets a few more points, a few more rebounds. Cade Cunningham, Jordan Poole, number 5. Devin Vassell, Larry Nance, Day'Ron Sharpe, Kyrie Irving, Jalen Johnson, and Zach Edey. Just don't think you need to play the shitty backup chalk or backup value plays that much on the slate. I would play Nance over Day'Ron Sharpe. I would play Nance over Paul Reed. Like, I just don't think you need to get that crazy here. Even though I have questions about Nance, like that's a couple of weird players, the top 5 ROI lineups. Oh, is Barrett not out? Okay, so yeah, so don't lie to me, guys. Do I have to mute CJ the Great? I didn't see it. I'm just reading the chat. I don't know for sure. Anything that's going to happen, I'll know in the deeper dive in 5 minutes. Your top ROI players, we got to run through these fast. Kyrie, number 1, 65% exposure compared to 42% for the field. Number 2, Devin Vassell, 50% compared to 14% for the field. Number 3, Jalen Johnson, 49% compared to 18% for the field. Ben Simmons, 46% compared to 20%. Wow. Big stands on these guys. Cade Cunningham, 46 compared to 39. Larry Nance, 45 compared to 16. Zach Edey, 43 compared to 19. Your highest leverage plays, Devin Vassell, again, talked about 50% field exposure or ownership rather in the top 150 lineups compared to 14% for the field. Jalen Johnson, almost half your lineups again, so they're with me on that. Larry Nance, they have no questions about the chalk here. He's a good value at 3,200, so 45% exposure for that. Ben Simmons, 46. Zach Edey, 43. Kyrie, 65. That's so much Kyrie. And Tari Eason, 36. He's questionable right now. If you got Eason going and Şengün out, that would look even better. Your most negative leverage plays, oh, they're low on Quentin Grimes. That sucks. Quentin Grimes. It's not that you benefit from lying. It just could be misreading. I don't think you're lying, for the record. I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I just will only confirm it if I know it's true. Here, let me look. Let me check Twitter real fast. Yeah, Barrett ruled out 6 minutes ago. So for anybody questioning our pal CJ the Great, CJ gets his victory lap. Barrett, illness, ruled out Thursday. There you go. And if you're not following Underdog NBA, you should be doing that. Same thing for the unabated stuff. You get alerts on Discord. All really important to keep an eye on. And Sabonis available. Seems like a key one too. Anyway, back to the Sims real fast here. Negative leverage, guys. Klay Thompson, negative 11% leverage. Jalen Duren, negative 10%. Dinwiddie, negative 7. Koulibaly, negative 7. Jaren Jackson, negative 6. Kuminga, negative 6. My splash plays of the day. Number one, I think would be Cade Cunningham. The upside there, the projection there, I'm really high on him, higher than Stokastic today. Cade Cunningham seems like a guy who's going to be very chalky, but I do think he's good chalk on the slate. Similarly, I'm a little bit low on Kyrie. So if you're going to choose between those two, I'd play the Cade chalk over the Kyrie chalk. Number two slash play, I think would be, in terms of the value, guys, I feel like Quentin Grimes is a stand, so I'm going to favor Quentin Grimes. My best values in the slate are Beasley and Grimes, Malik Beasley and Quentin Grimes. So those would be my preferred guys as value plays. But honestly, it's been a long video, guys. Hopefully you got value out of it. It's a lot of games. Again, before you go, please show some love to our sponsors. Unabated, promo code SPLASH, $30 off. Stokastic, promo code SPLASH, 15% off. Underdog, $1,000 in bonus cash. You want to play those pick'ems, go do it at Underdog, $1,000 right now using the promo code SPLASH. Link in the description, everything down below as well. Shout out to all you guys hanging out. I appreciate you guys being here. Gamble responsibly. We know it is always money time. And of course, I'll be back tomorrow. Another slate. I think it's a 3-gamer tomorrow. Just weird shit. But I'll be back for that one at 4 p.m. I appreciate all you hanging out. Good luck tonight. I'll see you guys again soon. Be over at Stokastic in a little bit. Come watch me there. Bye, guys.